Yo, how's it going everyone? It's Anne Sculline and thank you for joining my channel. So another week has drifted by, which means missions, challenges and lots more to look forward to. So this week we have the last of Mara Sov and Riven's challenges. So we're on week 6 and our last mission is to complete the prophecy dungeon to get our last wish token. Also this week, lots of fun and rewards to look forward to. It's the Guardian Games, but more on this later on in the video. This week's Crucible nodes are Clash Supremacy, and there is bonus Crucible ranks. Plus, Crucible has had a major update this week. Some big changes. So this has been the biggest update for Crucible in the history of the game, evidently. So update 7.3.5 means that all the maps will undergo changes. For example, spawn points, heavy ammo crates and tiebreaker zone locations, plus guardians will spawn in the centre of the map, which means that the guardians can return back to the gunfight quicker. Also up next this week we have the Grandmaster, and that's return of the Hypernet Current, and the weapon for this week is the Pre-Astyanax Solar Bow that actually comes with some very sweet perks. And moving on, we have this week's exotic rotator mission, and that is the Vox Obscura, and that is the home of the Dead Messenger special grenade launcher that is now fully craftable. Also in this week's reset, we have the legendary Rotator Dungeon Duality, home of the exotic Void Sword Heart Shadow, plus the dungeon does have some nice legendary weapons available. Also this week we see the return of the Last Wish raid, that is the home to the Thousand Voices heavy fusion rifle and some really nice meta legendary weapons that are also fully craftable. And last but not least, Master Crota and the weekly challenge, and this week it is at the Lanterns and it's called Conservation of Energy, and it's one of the easier challenges, to be quite honest, in the raid, but more information later in the video. So let's jump straight in for the full breakdown on this week's weekly reset. But before we do, if you could please leave any comments, what content you would like to see more of, or even if you just want to say hi. And if you're enjoying the content I'm making, please hit the thumbs up and the subscribe buttons, and this is totally free. And this helps me out so much by helping my channel to grow and get me one step closer to my ultimate goal, and that's to earn my affiliation with YouTube, and that helps me to create more content. So let's put the pedal to the metal and drift our way through everything you need to know for this week's Destiny reset. So kicking off this week is the end of our challenges for Mara Sov, and basically the new shape content gets released in June. As you know, that Riven asked Mara Sov, because we had done a good deed for the help that we'd given on the Riven's wishes, he rewarded us with a choice of rewards for completing easy challenges within the Dreaming City. And Mara Sov will reward you with a wish token to spend. So this week is the final week to claim our last wish token, and we've been challenged with completing the Prophecy Dungeon, and this has come at a good time, with Prophecy being updated this week with the weapon pool and the new perks. So moving on to the big event, it's the Guardian Games, and it starts at reset and finishes 3 weeks later, which is around about the 26th of March. So if this event is new to you, what's this event for and about? So this is a yearly event that is open to all players and is one of Destiny's biggest events, to be quite honest. All three characters, Titans, Warlocks, Hunters, must deposit as many medallions as possible over the entire event. And the highest amount of medallions wins the crown, and of course, the class bragging rights. What character do you think will win this year? I reckon Warlocks or Titans, but please leave a comment who you think's going to be crowned. So, what do we get from the games? Well, we have a very nice ornament set this year that can be purchased with silver or 6,000 bright dust. So, if you're low on the old bright dust, I suggest start buying your bounties to accumulate your bright dust. This year's event has some other goodies like the Skimmer hoverboard, and I know every Destiny 2 player is going to want a piece of that. Plus a new arc heavy grenade launcher which is called the Hullabaloo, if that's how it's pronounced, and that can actually roll with volt shot and chain reaction. So, wait and see what that's like. Plus, the games also has some very nice legendary weapons. For example, you've got the Title Void submachine gun, you've got the Traxipus Strand Scout rifle that will hopefully have some new perks to look forward to. Plus, you have the All Stars memento that can have a chance to drop on the gold medallions, but rumours are there's a guaranteed drop on platinum medallions or possibly diamond, but don't forget to use your memento before farming for another because you can only hold one at a time. Up next is this week's Grandmaster, and it's the returning Hypernet Current, and as you know, it's not one of the easiest Grandmasters, and to be honest, having a well with survivability build will help your team out immensely. Champions are Overload and Unstoppable, Arc Threat. There is also Arc Solar and Void shields to contend with, and the surges are Solar or Strand or having a heavy machine gun. Obviously they don't stack. Polaris Lance is super good in this Grandmaster with a lot of enemy at range. The adept weapon for this week is the new Strand Waveframe grenade launcher. That's new to the loot table this month. But don't worry, previous weapons are still going to be made available. Up next is this week's exotic rotator mission is the Vox Obscura, and this is the home of the Dead Messenger grenade launcher that is now fully craftable and has some very nice perks. The Vox Obscura came with the Season of the Risen and is a Cabal bunker which is basically located on Mars. There is 2 difficulty levels that are available for the mission, and has some very nice legendary weapons that are all craftable once the pattern has been unlocked. Here is a table of the weapons that are available within the mission. So moving on to the legendary rotator dungeon for the week, and this is Duality. It's an absolute amazing dungeon. I love doing this dungeon. It basically has 2 difficulty levels that are available. The dungeon mechanics are in 2 different realms, which makes it unique throughout the whole of the dungeon, plus has the old raid symbols from the Leviathan throughout every section. That's unique, even up until the last boss. All the mechanics you have learned along the way are all used at the last boss. The boss is able to drop everything within the dungeon depending what you're wanting to farm. So it is advisable to farm Pacific checkpoints if you're after Pacific weapon types. Also, the master difficulty does have its benefits it drops some really nice artificing armor, but the last boss is the best to farm for quick farming methods. Also, the dungeon has some amazing weapons like the Arc Linear Storm Chaser and a pretty nice pulse and submachine gun as well. That has some great perks. Here is a table of all the weapons that are available within the dungeon that can be farmed all this week. So this week's Rotator raid on rotation is one of the older raids, and it's on Dreaming City, and it's Last Wish. The weapons have been made available to craft once the patterns have been obtained. The last boss drops the 1000 Voices Exotic Heavy Fusion, and that is hidden within chests in a unique room after the boss. The raid is super fun to do, but if farming for red borders, there is often LFG cheese farm groups that take around 5 minutes and less to do and complete. The raid also has some amazing meta weapons used for PvE, and here is a table of all weapons and armor that is available. So happy hunting. Alright, so saving the best for last, and that's the king himself, and it's Master Crota. And each week, the master version of the raid has a challenge that is tied to a particular checkpoint. And on completion of that challenge, it guarantees everybody an adept weapon. So this week's challenge is at the Lanterns, which is at the very start of the raid, and the challenge is called Conservation of Energy. And honestly, it's not that hard as you think. All you have to do for the challenge is Guardians must deposit the Chalice of Light at every podium. It doesn't mean that you have to enlighten at every podium. So what can happen is I would normally at the very start at your first podium is get somebody that is nominated to get enlightened at the very start. So once you start working your way round, the podium will be further and further away. Sometimes it's at a third, sometimes it's at a fourth base. So if your group is having troubles of staying together and or not got the speed, I suggest using Eager's Edge, Strand and Grapple are going to be your best friend. You don't need to be amazing at it whatsoever. It just means that when you come to what I call the face planters, which is those big dangly things that swing from one side to another, that basically face plants you and one-shots you. So it means that you can just use a couple of R1s on your Eager's Edge and it will send you past that face planter. So just make sure that you've got somebody within the group and call it out that you are getting enlightened. Otherwise someone will snatch the buff off you and you've not got a buff and your timer's running out. So communication is the key for this, and staying alive. There is a couple of ways that you can actually do it. You can either at the very start of the raid get an experienced person to jump up and go up. It's a shortcut that takes you to the very last plate. And if you get somebody to go up there, you hardly get any ads coming down to you when you're trying to work your way around the lanterns. So that's a way that you can actually do it, but it also has cons doing it that way. The other way is move as a complete group, or you can have 3 to 4 people, runners that are very good at using their strand, and you can have somebody to go ahead and scout where the podium is and cut across the map rather than going around following the little yellow brick road. So that's the way that I do it, is I'll get somebody enlightened at the beginning, a couple of fast runners at the front, and they can trade the buff between them, and then you've got the others as backup if you need to get rid of the buff quickly or if you need somebody to be revived. So, happy hunting, guys. But sadly, this is the end of this week's reset. It's been super fun to make the content and lots more to come. Please hit the subscribe button. It's totally free to do, and it helps me get closer to my goals with YouTube so that I can make a lot more content. Also, I'll be back to streaming when the new content comes out, but sadly I am having issues with my PC and it's been a complete pain in the butt, and by the looks of it, it's more than likely it needs to go away. So hopefully everything's going to be sorted within the month and I'll be back on it and I'll be back again. So thank you for joining my channel. I do appreciate it, and have a great week. Okay, laters.